Hey friends, it's Frank again on Retirees Info. Right now, this Friday, there are specific payment schedules affecting retirees and VA beneficiaries that could mean the difference between paying your bills on time or scrambling to make ends meet. I've been in the financial trenches for decades, and I can tell you understanding these deposit schedules isn't just about convenience, it's about dignity. It's about planning your life with confidence instead of anxiety. See, the Social Security Administration operates on a precise calendar system based on your birth date and benefit type. And if you're also receiving VA benefits, there's a completely different timeline you need to understand. Too many seniors are getting caught off guard, missing payment dates, and facing unnecessary stress because nobody's explaining this clearly. Today, we're cutting through the bureaucratic nonsense and getting you real answers you can actually use. Let me break this down for you the way I wish someone had explained it to me years ago when I was helping my own parents navigate this system. First thing you need to understand is that Social Security isn't just throwing darts at a calendar to decide when you get paid. There's actually a method to what seems like madness. And once you understand it, you can plan your monthly budget with precision instead of living in that terrible space of uncertainty that keeps so many retirees up at night checking their bank accounts every few hours. The Social Security Administration has divided payment schedules into very specific categories, and where you fall in these categories determines everything about when that money hits your account. Now, here's what most people don't realize. If you started receiving benefits before May 1997, you're in a completely different payment structure than someone who started receiving benefits after that date. This isn't some arbitrary line in the sand. This goes back to a massive restructuring of how Social Security operated, and it created two distinct groups of beneficiaries that operate on entirely different payment calendars to this very day. For those of you who've been in the system since before May 1997, your payment date is locked in on the 3 of every month. It doesn't matter what day of the week it falls on. It doesn't matter what your birth date is. It doesn't change with the seasons. The 3rd is your day, and you can set your watch by it. Now, if the 3rd falls on a weekend or a federal holiday, then yes, they'll move it to the preceding business day. But that's the only exception. This consistency is actually a blessing because you can structure your entire monthly budget around that date. You know when your mortgage or rent is due, you know when your utility bills hit, and you can arrange everything around that reliable 3rd of the month deposit. But if you started receiving benefits after May 1997, welcome to what I call the birth date system. And this is where things get a little more complex, but still completely manageable once you understand the pattern. The Social Security Administration looks at your birth date and assigns you to one of 3 different Wednesdays each month. If you were born between the 1st and the 10th of any month, your payment comes on the 2nd Wednesday. If your birthday falls between the 11th and the 20th, you're getting paid on the 3rd Wednesday. And if you were born between the 21st and the end of the month, your deposit hits on the 4th Wednesday. This system spreads out the load on the banking system and the Social Security Administration's processing systems. But more importantly for you, it gives you a predictable pattern you can count on month after month after month. Now, let's talk about this Friday specifically because that's why you're here watching this video. You need to know if money's coming into your account, and you need to know it with certainty. This Friday's date determines which group of beneficiaries will see deposits. If this Friday happens to be the 3rd of the month, then everyone who started benefits before May 1997 should see their money. If it's the 2nd Wednesday of the month, then anyone born between the 1st and 10th is getting paid. If it's the 3rd Wednesday, that's for birth dates from the 11th through the 20th. And if we're looking at the 4th Wednesday, that covers everyone born from the 21st through the end of their birth month. Here's where I see people make a critical mistake that costs them sleep and causes unnecessary panic. They assume that because their neighbor got paid on a certain day, they should get paid that same day. But unless you and your neighbors started benefits in the same era and were born in the same 10-day window of the month, you're on completely different schedules. I've had people call into my show absolutely convinced that Social Security lost their payment because someone in their family got theirs 3 days earlier. That's not how this works. Your payment schedule is unique to your specific situation, and comparing yourself to others is just going to create anxiety where none needs to exist. Now let's shift gears and talk about VA benefits, because if you're receiving both Social Security and VA disability or pension payments, you're juggling two completely separate systems. And this is where I see the most confusion among the folks I talk to. The Department of Veterans Affairs operates on its own payment calendar that has nothing to do with Social Security's schedule. VA benefits are typically paid on the first day of each month, and they're paying you for that current month, not the previous month like some people think. So if we're talking about a Friday that happens to fall on the first of the month, VA beneficiaries should see their deposits hit. But here's the kicker. If the first falls on a weekend or holiday, the VA pays early, moving the payment to the last business day of the previous month. This early payment system that the VA uses is actually more generous than Social Security's approach. While Social Security will move a weekend payment to the following Monday, the VA says, "We're going to make sure you have your money before the weekend or holiday even starts." For a lot of veterans living on fixed incomes, this can be the difference between having money for groceries on Saturday or waiting until Monday. It's a small thing, but small things matter enormously when you're living on a budget that doesn't have much room for error. What I want you to understand is that these aren't just numbers on a calendar. These are the lifelines that millions of Americans depend on to keep the lights on, to put food on the table, to afford their medications, and to live with a shred of dignity after decades of hard work. And the system, for all its complexity, is actually trying to be reliable. The problem isn't that the system is unpredictable. The problem is that nobody takes the time to explain it in plain English so people can actually understand what's happening with their own money. Here's something else that drives me crazy. I talk to seniors all the time who are still receiving paper checks in the mail instead of direct deposit, and they're dealing with all kinds of delays and uncertainties because of it. If you're still getting a paper check, you need to switch to direct deposit immediately. Not next month, not when you get around to it, immediately. Paper checks get lost in the mail, they get stolen from mailboxes. They take days longer to arrive, and then you've got to physically get to the bank to deposit them. Direct deposit hits your account on the scheduled day, it's secure, it's automatic, and it eliminates so much unnecessary stress from your life. The Social Security Administration and the VA both strongly prefer direct deposit, and honestly, there's no good reason to still be using paper checks in this digital age. Now, I know some of you are sitting there thinking, but Frank, what if there's a problem? What if my payment doesn't show up when it's supposed to? First, don't panic. Give it 24 hours because sometimes there are processing delays on the banking side that have nothing to do with Social Security or the VA. Banks don't all process deposits at the same time of day. And what might show up at 8 o'clock in the morning for one person might not appear until later in the afternoon for someone else, even though the deposit was sent at the same time. But if you've waited a full business day past your scheduled payment date and still don't see your deposit, then yes, it's time to make some phone calls. For Social Security issues, you need to contact the Social Security Administration directly. Their national number is available, but I'm going to be straight with you. You might be on hold for a while, the system is overwhelmed, they're understaffed, and patience is going to be your friend here. But don't let that discourage you from calling, because these are your benefits. This is your money, and you have every right to know where it is and when it's coming. For VA payment issues, you'll contact the Veterans Affairs Benefits line and again have your information ready, your claim number, your Social Security number, and any relevant documentation about your benefits. What I want to hammer home here is the importance of record keeping. You need to keep track of when your payments arrive, how much they are, and any correspondence you receive from Social Security or the VA. I recommend a simple notebook or a folder where you document everything related to your benefits. Date received, amount, any discrepancies, any letters or notices you get, all of it goes in that folder because if there ever is a problem, if there's ever a discrepancy, if you ever need to appeal a decision or question an amount, having that documentation is going to be worth its weight in gold. Let me tell you something else that's critically important. Your Social Security benefit amount can change from year to year based on cost of living adjustments, but it can also change if you're still working and earning income above certain thresholds or if you have Medicare premiums deducted from your benefit. Every January, you should receive a notice from Social Security showing your new benefit amount for the year. Read that notice. Don't just throw it in a drawer. Understand what's changing and why. The same goes for VA benefits. If your disability rating changes, if your pension amount adjusts, you'll receive notification. These aren't junk mail. These are important documents that affect your financial life. I also want to address something that I see causing confusion and frankly fear among seniors. There are always rumors floating around about Social Security running out of money, about benefits being cut, about the system collapsing. Let me give you some perspective here. Yes, Social Security faces long-term funding challenges that Congress needs to address, but the idea that the system is going to suddenly stop sending checks is not based in reality. Even in the worst-case scenarios that policy experts discuss, we're talking about potential reductions in benefits years or decades down the road, not the sudden cessation of payments. Your check that's supposed to come this Friday is coming. The system that's been paying benefits reliably for nearly 90 years isn't suddenly going to evaporate overnight. What you need to focus on is what you can control. You can't control what Congress does about Social Security's long-term funding, but you can control understanding your payment schedule. You can control setting up direct deposit. You can control keeping good records. You can control building an emergency fund if possible. Even if it's just a small cushion to help you through those inevitable moments when an unexpected expense pops up between payment dates. These are the practical steps that actually improve your day-to-day financial life. Instead of worrying about hypothetical scenarios that may or may not happen years from now, here's my final thought for you, and this is coming from a place of genuine care for the people who built this country and deserve better than confusion and anxiety about their benefits. The Social Security and VA payment systems aren't perfect, but they're predictable. Once you understand the pattern, once you know your specific payment date, once you've got direct deposit set up and you're keeping good records, the stress level drops dramatically. You move from a place of reactive worry to proactive planning. You know when your money is coming, you can structure your bills around it, and you can live your life with confidence instead of constantly checking your bank balance in fear. This Friday, whether it's your payment day or not, you now have the information you need to know exactly where you stand. And that knowledge, that certainty, that's worth more than gold when you're trying to live on a fixed income in an uncertain world. You've earned these benefits through decades of work and sacrifice. Understanding when and how you receive them isn't asking too much. It's the bare minimum you deserve.